Why Diablo 2 players hate Diablo 4? Well, apparently this person speaks for all Diablo 2 players. Here we go. Let's see what he has to say.
Diablo 4 is now a spin-off version of Diablo 3, Path of Exile, and World of Warcraft. The RNG random number generator game mechanics that made Diablo 2 the greatest game of all time through randomized loot, dungeons, monster spawns, and even skill damage ability gave you a new experience every time you logged on to the game and has given the player base infinite replay value for 20 years. Diablo 4 has now evolved into a repetitive gameplay style that gives you the same experience over and over. That is less rewarding and is for the casual player base and MMORPG.
I mean, I would assume that with Diablo 2, most people probably fall off on the game really fast too. Like, they probably do the campaign, they probably farm whatever the highest difficulty is for a while, and then they stop playing. Same as Diablo 3. That's the way these games are designed.
Based game.
Not back in the day? Well, I mean, back in the day, you can't really compare what it was like back in the day, because back in the day, you didn't have 50,000 other fucking games. You had one game. So, of course, you were only going to play Diablo 2, because you only had Diablo 2. The only other game you might have is Diablo 1. So, yeah, of course it was totally different back then, but, like, I'm talking about nowadays. Like, I'm sure you can look at Twitch tracker, Diablo 2. Categories, Diablo 2 Resurrected. Yeah, I mean, you have the same thing happen, right? Where it's like the first day of a season, a lot of people watch, and then people fall off. Now, I would argue that interest in watching a game is roughly correlated in interest playing a game. I mean, this is not a hot take, right? Seasons are done to refresh that interest. And this is also not a bad thing. That's the way seasonal games are made. Everybody plays at the beginning. It's the same as Path of Exile. It's the same as every other seasonal game. And there's nothing wrong with that.
Now, I've been considered one of the most controversial Diablo 2 content creators for my critical opinions and somewhat of an outcast because of them.
Okay.
98% of Diablo-specific content creators are partnered with Blizzard. And this is probably why you have never seen me use the hashtag DiabloPartner. I've always expressed myself to the fullest and never tried to gain the approval of everybody, which is an impossible task when fully being yourself. The game is my love and passion, though. I will be as old as Decker King going on a rant about game.
I kind of don't like this language, and the reason why I don't like it is, like, what he's implying is that everybody else on this list is, like, fake and saying things that aren't true and that are illegitimate. And I think that's kind of unfair. Like, it's very weird because, like, how do you know that they don't think this? How do you know that, you know, they're just not, like, because there are people that like the game, right? Like, you can expect that there are people that like Diablo 4 in the same way that, like, I am not a big fan of FIFA. But I think it would be stupid for me to say that everybody who likes FIFA is getting paid or is artificially pretending to like FIFA. No. It's just that other people like the game, and I don't like the game. That doesn't mean that they're paid or this is some kind of conspiracy. People just have different interests. I feel like we've watched many videos of Riker and Mr. Llama being critical of the game. This is not unreasonable. Anyone on Maxroll. The biggest Diablo 4 meme is because of the guy that runs it. What are you talking about? It's the Rack 17 damage meme. This is not even true.
The game is my love and passion, though. I will be as old as Decker King going on a rant about game mechanics and just my overall love for the game. All of my opinions come from a place of love, and I want Diablo to be in the spotlight like it should have been for the past 20 years. So let's talk about how the Diablo 4 game mechanics work. I will explain to you how Diablo 4 has now evolved into a repetitive experience from a Diablo 2 player perspective.
Okay.
Explaining the core game mechanics that are important to understand for the long-term success of Diablo 4 or any Diablo game. Diablo's unique gameplay style and replay value is possible through the term RNG, the random number generator.
Well, they have that in Diablo 4, because if they didn't, I would have all of the legendaries. I don't.
This was the main core revolutionary game mechanic of Diablo 2.
There's nothing revolutionary about RNG. The people that invented RNG in fantasy gaming is Dungeons and Dragons. They were the ones that introduced dice rolls, because before that, different types of like fantasy-based games were not fun to play because they were completely on rails. And my mom, like, she actually played games that were fantasy games before Dungeons and Dragons. I did not even know this, but I found the ancient texts. And this was back whenever she was still around. So I asked her, I was like, what the fuck is this? And she had spreadsheets and lists and everything for like these games that were made for a computer that can fucking, this is like one of the computers that have like a screen this small. So the Jedi text, I found them. And she's like, yeah, this is like this old game I used to play on the computer, and like it was an Osborne PC. Let me show you the PC that she played this game on, okay? This is the PC right here. I'd have to find the specific one, but I could literally take, I don't want to get, it's in my fucking closet, and there's a bunch of stuff in my closet. I'm not getting it, but I have one of these. And it is, let me just see, it's basically like one of these here. And it's got a little screen in the middle. And this is what she used to play games on. And Dungeons and Dragons was the thing that introduced RNG into fantasy gaming. It was not Diablo 2. Like, this like predates Diablo 2 by like 20 or 30 years.
Core value has been exiled from the Diablo franchise since the release of Diablo.
Item RNG is what he's talking about. Item RNG was made by Dungeons and Dragons.
And now abandoned by Diablo 4. Now, you may
RNG has been abandoned by Diablo 4? I didn't know that. Well, I guess next time I kill a boss, I'm just going to get the legendary I want.
Yourself,
thank God.
What is it about Diablo 2 that made that game the greatest game of all time?
Okay.
Why did I spend 20 years playing this game and not others? With my studies of quantum physics and my spiritual journey, I realized 95% of quantum physics and my spiritual journey, I realized 95% of our brain's thoughts, beliefs, behaviors, perceptions, and more
We're only 2 minutes into this video and we're already getting into the fucking metaphysical shit? Oh my God. We're 2 minutes in and he's already revealing his power level? Oh no. Let him cook? All right.
Function like an automatic, unconscious computer program. Your perceptions of the real world and the gaming world are a set of unconscious programs. This theory, along with the misunderstanding of Diablo's core game mechanics, were the real reason why you had these beliefs about Diablo 2 being the greatest game of all time, which I will explain in further detail later on. Chris Wilson, the creator of Path of Exile, studied these theories as well about Diablo 2 when he was creating Path of Exile. Chris knew Diablo 2 was the greatest game of all time, and he studied the game to its core. Every time you log on to Diablo 2, you have a new experience because of the RNG mechanics. Every moment is different. It is impossible to have the same experience you had before every time you log on to the game. When you enter the world, the dungeons are randomized.
I mean, I don't really think that's entirely true in a unique way with Diablo 2. Like, maybe I'm wrong because I haven't played the game a lot, but I've watched the game a pretty good amount. And my understanding with Diablo 2 is that most of the level layouts, like, it's like in Path of Exile, most of the different locations whenever you're doing the campaign are pseudo-randomized. So, for example, if you want to go to the into like the cave in Act 2 where the bear is, okay? You're going to go into the crossroads or whatever it is on top of the Act 2 area, and it's going to be to the right. And it will be somewhere in that area. And it's not going to be exactly in the same place every time, but there's a general area that it will be in. The den, yeah. And my understanding is that that's lifted from Diablo 2, because Diablo 2 has randomized locations, but fixed location, like a fixed location apparatus, where it can be in like one of 5 different areas, and it will be down to the left. That's the way it works, right? Yes, exactly. Yeah, okay, I thought so. I mean, again, I'm only guessing here, but yes, it's a tile. No, I understand tile sets. No, bro, like I played a lot of Diablo 3. I get it, but I put thousands of hours into Diablo 3. I put thousands of hours into Path of Exile. I did not really play Diablo 2. I wish I did. My mom didn't let me. Bro, it had Diablo on the fucking cover. I was raised Roman Catholic. I'm not getting a game that has the devil on the cover, okay? It's just not going to happen. It was like, no, but you killed the devil. It's like, aha, yeah, nice try. Nice try, Satan. Not today. So, yeah. Anyway, I feel like if you played Diablo 2, you would pretty much have the same experience, roughly the same experience every time. And it's not going to be a one-for-one experience, but it will be extremely similar to the other experiences that you had. And how, not entirely, yes, but like we're talking about like 95%. And it's not entirely in the same way that Diablo 3 was not entirely in the same way that Path of Exile maps are not entirely. Now, the PoE maps are a little bit different because like there are fixed maps, but in general, I think this is the case. Let's get back to the quantum physics. You're right. Anyway, yeah, I disagree on the idea that Diablo 2 is uniquely unique. I think that many games have dungeon randomized tile sets. Diablo 2 is not the only game that has this.
Along with the types of monsters that spawn, the loot that drops.
I will, however, say that Diablo 2 is the reason why all of the other games have it.
The map layouts, and even your skill damage ability. Now, when you play Diablo 2, as I said, 95% of your perceptions of the world are unconscious. You unconsciously never knew exactly why Diablo 2 was the greatest game of all time, and these core game mechanics pass right by your awareness. This concept of the Diablo world had you constantly addicted to the rush of wanting new experiences. You just never realized it this whole time. The loot.
I think this video would be a lot better if he replaced you and he replaced it with I. Because what he's really talking about is his personal experience with the game. And like a lot of people didn't get that vibe from Diablo 2.
Being randomized gave you a sense of overwhelming accomplishment when you found something like such as a high rune. This extreme rarity combined with the reward of extreme power left the player feeling like they were truly rewarded for their effort. The reason why Diablo 2 players won't like Diablo 4 is because it doesn't have these core game mechanics of the RNG. In Diablo 4, the world is almost always the same with no RNG. The dungeons are the same repetitive experience over and over again. Fetch a key, run to the left, run to the right, and open a door. The monsters...
I mean, whenever I watch people doing farming runs for like Diablo 2, all it is like usually it's like a sorcerer teleporting frames and then AoEing down a group of mobs and then resetting it and doing it again. Like that's the gameplay that I see a lot. And I'm not saying that's the whole game, but that's certainly what I see. I see that a lot. And the reason, straight up, like, that's one of the reasons why I didn't want to play the game. Is that's obviously the best farming method, right? Like, there's no way anybody can beat that. So, like, that's, in my opinion, I think that's a shit meta. It is. It's a shit meta. And if they were still developing the game, it wouldn't be like that.
Spawns are somewhat randomized, however, mostly the same. So now let's talk about soulbound.
Well, somewhat randomized, but mostly the same. I think that's, again, what Diablo 2 has as well. And also, like, whenever he's talking about, like, this thing, I don't think you can really compare, like, endgame Diablo 2 to Act 1 Diablo 4 dungeons. because the end game dungeons are going to be different. They're not going to be the exact same because they're going to be like modified by affixes and different types of different things that the Nightmare dungeons will apply to them.
Items, no trading, and itemization. So 98% of the item drops are for your class and gives you no sense of accomplishment. This term is item drop items, no trading. However, mostly the same. So now let's talk about soulbound items, no trading, and itemization. So 98% of the item drops are for your class and gives you no sense of accomplishment. This term
98% of the item drops are for your class and gives you no sense of accomplishment. I think he's right about the first thing, he's wrong about the second one. I think that yes, and I've always been a very big advocate that I think that they should have more drops for other classes that happen whenever you get to max level. Because, like, for example, somebody might kind of want to make a wizard, but if they have, like, a really good wizard item drop, they might think, oh, yeah, you know what? Maybe I'll try it out now since I got, like, the best in slot weapon for wizard to drop. Or something like that. I think that'd be fine.
It's called personal loot, the same repetitive experience. This is a spin-off concept from World of Warcraft instance loot, where the loot drops are mostly the same from bosses and become soulbound. This has removed the idea of item drops being unique, special, and rewarding. This is to appeal to the casual players.
I don't think that having personal loot makes item drops and things like that not rewarding. Because it's still hard to get the items. It's not like you can't get... It's not like you're just going to get everything you want.
Also the World of Warcraft player base because it has a massive following. And they like the concept of instance loot. They don't like RNG-based item drops. This gets them interested in the game and makes Blizzard more money from a wider audience. This concept of instance loot. They don't like RNG-based item drops.
The items are RNG though. Like I don't. Where is this person going about how the items aren't RNG? Because they literally drop with random stats. Now they don't like. For example, like a legendary item will always drop with like I don't know, Andariel's Visage would always drop with, what was it, like crit chance and like crit damage or attack speed or something like that? Yeah, but all the other stats were random. He doesn't know how RNG is applied. He's saying RNG in the sense for any of your class? Oh, okay, yeah.
This gets them interested in the game and makes Blizzard more money from a wider audience. Also, the loot drops were increased for the beta. However, I still think Blizzard is going to have legendaries dropping like Rao runes, just to benefit the casual player base.
Well, I think that's probably smart to have legendaries drop a lot, because legendaries allow people to build their character the way they want. Like, you don't want to have people farming for, like, fucking... Like, for example, this is a problem that Path of Exile has. Is that in PoE, there are a lot of builds that take a long time to get going. And I think that you have to invest so much into it that unless you're a very serious player, you might just lose interest in the game in the process. Like, I think this is definitely a problem. So, like, you do want to have legendaries drop kind of regularly. That doesn't mean you get all the legendaries all the time. No. But it means you want to give people at least something to work towards. Absolutely.
Also, for casual players who don't play the game
it's a seasonal
at an
game.
end game level. So, soulbound items and no trading. Have you ever heard any player say, I don't like trading? I don't want...
Yeah, I've heard a lot of people saying that they don't like it. That's why you have solo self-found. That's why PoE has solo self-found. It's a huge thing. That's why, like, classic WoW hardcore has solo self-found. Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of people that think that. Now, I am a trading enjoyer. I really like the idea of trading, and I think that if you took trading out of a game like Path of Exile, my interest for the game would diminish greatly. I love trading, and trading is what made me like Diablo 3 Vanilla more than Diablo 3 Reaper of Souls. Because I like the idea of being able to farm out items and sell those items and then work towards the real big item that I want incrementally over time. Like, I have farmed out, like, for example, like my Ward Loop character in PoE. That was like a almost 100-hour journey that I took because I could trade. And I worked towards that goal one map at a time. And that felt really good for me to do. I really enjoyed that. So I am a huge trading advocate. I am a massive trading enjoyer. I think that they should have trading. And it seems like they are.
Trading in Diablo 4. Never. Let's say you find a Zod rune, the rarest rune in the entire game of Diablo 2 that is for a build like a barbarian, and you found it on a sorceress, so now it has no use to you. If this was Diablo 4, you couldn't trade it. One of the rarest items in the game, and you now have to just salvage it.
And this is something that PoE does right. Like, I think that I got, what was that fucking, I got a jewel, and it was worth like 8 or 9 divine orbs, which are like, it was a big ticket item, right? Divine orbs are like fucking $100 bills or $1,000 bills. Shared stash. Well, what he means is you can't sell it.
Item drops are class based. What if it's not for your build? Will this happen in Diablo 4? Most likely. This theory isn't absolute because we haven't experienced end game. So
of course it'll happen. Of course you'll get items that aren't perfect for you.
Why does Blizzard want no trading when 98% of the Diablo community wants trading?
I mean, where did you get that number? I would argue that I think that most people do want trading because most players will advocate for the path of least resistance. And trading is the path of least resistance. Like, I think that it's the majority. Is it 98%? I don't know. I think that it's very high. Like, if you were to say, like, should we take trading out of the game and put it up to a vote, I don't think that vote would pass. It's a cut down on RMT for sure. No, I don't want to be handicapped by Blizzard because they refuse to moderate their game. No, I don't want to be handicapped. Nope. This is a $70 fucking box price game. If you can't moderate your game, I don't want to be punished for that. That's your fault.
Many theories to this. One is Blizzard thinks this will fix real money trading.
It won't.
However, there will always be real money.
Because you can always trade other things. You can trade tons of other things that are not, like you can trade gold, for example. You just can't trade high-end, unique items.
Trading when trading is available in any kind of form. There's no fix to RMT unless the game is completely solo self-found. Blizzard wants you to actually find the items yourself.
He's right about this, and I think that so for example, the way that the game is structured right now, my understanding is that a lot of rare items will end up being best in slot. And rare items are tradable. Because rare items can have up to 5 affixes, and legendary items can only have 4. But I'm not sure. I'm not sure what it's going to be at the highest level. Am I right about that or not? Isn't it the opposite? No, it's not. See, the reason why you think it's the opposite is because you played the lower tier of the game. Because at the higher tier of the game, Blizzard explained that the rares at that level are going to have 5 affixes. At like World Tier 4, they'll have 5 affixes. And that's one of the bonuses of playing in World Tier 4. He's not right. They changed it? Really? Rares have 5 affixes so you can turn them into legendaries later. Yeah, they did. So you can get a God Roll rare? Yeah. You want to get a rare item with if this is Diablo 3, right? Like crit chance, crit damage, attack speed, main stat, and like health. Right? Like that's it. They didn't change it? I don't know. But like, as it stands right now, my understanding is that a lot of the best in slot items, or the items that have the potential to be the best in slot items, will be tradable.
Complete your character. In other words, they just want you to be solo self-found. This restricts the player from having the freedom to make their own choices.
Yeah, exactly. I think that they should just have a solo self-found mode. If you don't want to play with that, you should just have solo self-found mode and that's it. Are you not ashamed of your actions to promote third-party site and RMT? Absolutely not. I think the only person who should be ashamed is Blizzard, because Blizzard is the one that's responsible for maintaining the integrity of their game. I should not advocate to have the game be a worse experience because Blizzard refuses to spend money on customer service. No, I'm not going to take responsibility for them being a multi-billion-dollar company unable to pay a few customer service representatives to make obvious decisions on bans. That's outrageous. Path of Exile does it, and the game is free.
They should just have a self-found league like Path of Exile. They're literally forcing the player base to be solo self-found. Another theory is they are trying to appeal to a wider audience of players.
Yeah, again, this is predicated on something that's like it's not functionally true. Unless my information is outdated. Oh, another fact is that some legendaries are tradable, other legendaries are not tradable. Because you guys remember whenever I played with Silverveil, and I was able to trade her some of my legendaries, and she was able to trade me some of hers, but not other ones. So not only are some legendaries tradable, but the highest potential items that are the rare items that have 5 affixes are going to be tradable because rare items are by default tradable. They confirmed that was a bug? Oh, okay. Never mind. Okay, I didn't know that. Thank you. I was not aware of that. Okay, well, you can still trade the rare items.
Which is probably World of Warcraft, where soulbound items are the pathway to endgame gear completion. Yeah. The next theory is...
Which, by the way, I am an advocate of all gear in World of Warcraft should be account bound. Completely. With no restrictions at all.
Personally think this is the best for the game and its future, regardless of community feedback. And the last theory is they think Diablo 3 was a success based on sales of 30 million copies without trading. However, when
Diablo 3 was a success in every metric. It was a massive success. The only people who think that it wasn't a success are people that had probably 500 plus hours into the game, which is like the top 10 or 1% of the player base. Like, a lot of people played Diablo 3. Do PoE has RMT? It's really hard to stop because people do it in different countries. No trade is the best answer. I don't care. I don't feel like my experience in Path of Exile is being diminished by traders, RMT. I would rather have some level of RMT and be able to trade than have no RMT and no trading. That's what I want. I would rather have some RMT and trading instead. Like, because that is the choice. You're right, that we will have some RMT no matter what. But as a Path of Exile player, I played the game many fucking leagues. I played this league as well. And as a PoE player for 10 years, over 10 years, I do not feel like my experience in the game has ever been diminished by other people RMTing. So I don't have a problem. We have the money to interact with that system and we don't, so hey, fuck us. Wait, I have the money to interact with... Wait, what money do I have? I have the money to interact with RMT? I've never RMT'd in... If I ever RMT'd in any game, I will be honest, guys. I was down bad in one PoE league, and I looked up how much Exalted Orbs were. I did. I looked it up, and then I decided it wasn't worth it, and I didn't buy them. But yeah, I looked it up. I was so upset, man.
Diablo 3 was released, everyone hated the game, and it died. The game had 200 Twitch viewers for years. The game was completely lifeless, while Diablo 2 had 40,000 players online in 2016. And for some reason, Blizzard still seems to...
Did it have 40,000 players online all the time, or was this a peak? Because I don't think that they have... I don't think they have 40,000 people online right now. There's no way. That was whenever it came out in 2016. I'm pretty sure it didn't come out in 2016.
Think that the game was a success. Diablo in the franchise is like the Beatles. It doesn't matter if the album or if the music or if the game is even good at all. It's going to sell millions of copies just because of the hype around the name.
He's right about this.
Let's talk about the constant restrictions of gameplay. Diablo 4 is advertised as an open world game. The world makes you feel restricted on the places you can go because there are barriers everywhere. The dungeons are usually one pathway and it literally makes you feel trapped in the world. Diablo 2 is 10 times more open world than this, and I'm not sure why Blizzard has designed the world this way.
It's hard to say how open world Diablo 4 is really going to be because we haven't seen anything more than Act 1. Like, I don't know. I mean, I think that being open world really just means that you can see other players. I think that that's what they kind of mean. It's an open zone. Yeah, I don't know.
When it was supposed to be open world. There are many aspects of the game that restrict you from where you really want to go and things you want to do. You can't go wherever you want because of the barriers in the open world, and you can't trade all of the items.
Well, I mean, you couldn't in the beta because you could only go to Act 1, right? I mean, I don't know. I mean, I think that's the... I mean, yeah, it's the beta, like, they didn't have everything unlocked. I mean, that's kind of the point, right? I mean...
Either. And aspects can only be applied to certain items. You constantly have to salvage, enchant items, extract legendaries, etc. There's always something restricting you from progressing, when instead you should just be out in the world killing stuff, not crafting constantly in the main city like World of Warcraft.
I don't... Bro, like, what?
To salvage, enchant items, extract legendaries, etc. There's always something restricting you from progressing, when instead you should just be out in the world killing stuff, not crafting constantly in the main city like World of Warcraft.
That's not even true. So, like, okay, let's talk about this. Number one, most people aren't crafting all day in the main city in World of Warcraft. However, now in Dragonflight, there's more of an economy for it, so maybe you have more people that do it now. In general, that's not the case. Also, with Diablo 2, there isn't a lot of crafting. Like, let's think about what crafting things you can do. You can replace one stat on a piece of gear. You can apply gem sockets to pieces of gear. You can enchant and also extract legendary affixes. And you can upgrade gear at the blacksmith. And you can apply gems into the gear. I mean, I feel like that's not a lot in Diablo 4.
These features should be choices, not requirements. And this is where Diablo 2 got something almost perfect.
Okay.
Because there was crafting and there were ways to enchant your items and do other different types of crafting and enchanting abilities. It's just you didn't absolutely have to do it to be able to progress your character in the game. When you're completing the Diablo 4 story and questing, you can skip the cutscenes. However, you still spend hours of time hitting your escape key to skip the cutscenes. Every side quest has the same boring scene. Also, every quest has a lot of walking and a lot of talking to NPCs. I don't know how many times I had to walk all the way across the map for so many quests. It
is kind of annoying to have to walk all the way over to, like, where that lady is at the top area next to, like, where Anarius is. It is annoying, but, like, that's because we don't have the mount in Act 1, and, like, usually you'll have the mount in Act 2. It's not that big of a deal.
I could just be out there killing stuff. It feels like they are trying to make the game an open world type atmosphere similar to World of Warcraft with
It's more like Lost Ark, really. I think that Lost Ark is probably the foundation that they're making a lot of decisions based off of.
Action RPG spin-off that has a ton of restrictions. Rune words are not completed for the release of the game. They were a feature Blizzard announced to try to get Diablo 2 players into Diablo 4. This is basically the same thing as socketing an item with a jewel or a perfect gem. They are not rune words. You just get different effects based on the rune. The feature isn't completed, and I'm sure Blizzard will use this in an upcoming patch to gain hype. I don't think they understand the complex game mechanics for rune words because this requires a lot of testing and knowledge to be balanced properly. And most of the devs at Blizzard that work on Diablo games, I don't think they know anything about Diablo 2. And
I don't know about that, man. It's like whenever I look at the guys that are making Diablo 4, especially that Rod guy and that Joseph guy, they have the same energy as like the oldest guy in the comic book shop that knows more about Spider-Man than you do. I think they know how the rune words work. I'm pretty sure they do.
Never see them ever playing the game. It just seems like they have a job and working at Blizzard is really cool, so they just like to be at Blizzard for the clout and the hype. I never seen one ever playing the game. It just know anything about Diablo 2. And I also never see them ever playing the game. It just seems like they have a job and working at Blizzard.
I mean, I could say like Adam Fletcher, who's the he's community manager, right? So it's like kind of hard to one this. But like he posts about Diablo 2 kind of regularly. So I don't know about like I can't say like, oh, this guy posted about it on this day. That's just the first one I can think of. I've seen Rod in game on all 3 betas.
It is really cool, so they just like to be at Blizzard for the clout and the hype. I never seen one Blizzard employee actually play the game, so I assume they don't have much knowledge or passion Diablo game mechanics that come from the other games, such as Diablo 2.
I could see why this guy didn't get invited to the events.
This is probably why they copy and paste Diablo 3, because they don't actually understand Diablo at all. This is why the skill tree is like Path of Exile, and the rest of the game is just like World of Warcraft with a spin-off. It doesn't seem like PvP...
The skill tree is not really like PoE. The skill tree is like the World of Warcraft skill tree, and the Paragon board is kind of like Path of Exile.
Is going to be completed for the release. This is impossible to balance with the current version of the game, because my chain lightning does more damage than my actual health. If Blizzard wanted, they could balance PvP.
Wait, what?
This is impossible to... It doesn't seem like PvP is going to be completed for the release. This is impossible to balance with the current version.
Well, I mean, I don't think that it's supposed to be. I mean, Diablo is a PvE game. Nobody cares. Like, bro, if you care about PvP in Diablo, like, what the fuck? Just go play Valorant.
Of the game, because my chain lightning does more damage than my actual health. If Blizzard wanted, they could balance PvP and get the game on an esports level of popularity.
Yeah, that's what I thought about Overwatch too. And also Overwatch as well. And also World of Warcraft. And StarCraft. And did they make another game? Because if they did, probably about that game too. Heroes of the Storm, yeah.
I just don't think they care enough for the game as much as they do World of Warcraft. I fear we won't see many...
As a World of Warcraft player, I feel like the WoW team has actually delivered a lot of really good content. And I think that this is not only true with retail WoW, I think it's also true with classic WoW. I think that basically every single decision that Blizzard has made regarding classic Wrath of the Lich King has been a good decision. And it's been impressive to me that they've made so many very good decisions with classic WoW. Now, I'm sure there's probably a couple of L's in there, but overall, as a WoW player, I do feel like the devs have there are things wrong with WoW. Don't get me wrong. But I think that the game is not awful right now. Like, that's it.
Major content patches, because after 2 years, they will make the majority of the money that there is to make from Diablo 4. I don't see Blizzard making enough money off cosmetics and battle passes for them to actually care for the game as much as they...
I think that they will. I think they absolutely will. And the reason why is because Diablo 4, it's like what he said earlier in the video, is that Diablo 4 hits a mainstream audience. There are a lot of people that hear about Diablo 4 from a commercial on TV. And one thing that people are not taking into account is how many people are console Diablo 3 players that never watch streams or anything like that. And that's why console players are like this silent majority that you never think about. But Diablo 3 has like tons of people that play it on console, obviously. So that's why they release it on every fucking console. And guess what? All of those people are going to play the game and get the battle passes. Because that's what the battle passes are really for. They're not for the super hardcore, grind every season for 900 hours players. These are for the casual 9-to-5 Dans that come back and they want to play Diablo on the weekends with their friends. These are the couch co-op dad gamers. Dans? Yeah. Yeah.
They care for World of Warcraft. Maybe if the game was a subscription-based money off cosmetics, battle passes, for them to actually care.
Yeah, I find that to be like, that's such a crazy opinion. Like, so I wonder why this person, like, if you were to ask them, like, why do you think every single game is shifting over towards this model then? If it's not a fundamentally good model, why is every game shifting towards this model? Very interesting question. Because it makes money? Well, he's saying it won't. And he's saying the reason why Blizzard won't care about it is because it won't make money. Discord interview him? Sure, if he wants to talk about the game, that's fine with me. Yeah, I have no problem with that.
For the game, as much as they care for World of Warcraft. Maybe if the game was a subscription-based game, it's just over time they won't make enough money from the game anymore. So I don't really see them continuing to develop more features and more of the end game in the future. Also, there's...
I mean, PoE gets developed, right? I would say PoE has continuously gotten developed over time, and that hasn't really been a big deal. And that's fine. Diablo 3 didn't. Well, don't you understand that if you say that Diablo 3 didn't, that goes against your argument, because Diablo 3 didn't have the monetization structure that Diablo 4 has, that he is implying will prevent it from making money? So, like, if you say Diablo 3 didn't, you're agreeing with me.
Seems to be what I call a culture flip, or a new age of Diablo players that actually like Diablo 3 and even Diablo 4 game mechanics. After the release of Diablo 3, everyone hated the game, even before it was released. Also, the game died.
I don't think people hated the game before it was released. That's actually not true. I don't know how old this guy is, but like, I'll tell you what it was like. So basically everybody was like really, really hyped for Diablo 3. And the reason for that is because everybody, like, number one, like, this had been an anticipated game. Like, when did Diablo 2 come out? Like 2000, 2002 or something like that? I don't know. Came out a long, long time ago. And Diablo 3 was like the main next installment, right? It was like a huge fucking big deal, and they announced Diablo 3 in 2008, I believe. So this had been hyped up for 4 years. So number one, like, the game had hype riding on it, and like, it was in development hell. They redid the game a couple of times. It was like a big thing. And so then whenever Diablo 3, the beta came out, you were able to play up to Leoric, the Skeleton King. And that experience of the beginning of the game up to Leoric was actually S tier. And everything, I would argue, in Act 1 in Diablo 3 was like one of the best gaming experiences of an ARPG ever. It was absolutely fucking S tier. And that was the only thing that people had a viewpoint of inside of Diablo 3. All they saw was Act 1 being really good. But the moment that you step foot into that desert, you had mobs off-screening you, enemies not attacking you and not being able to be seen. Zoltan Kulle was a shit fight. Belial was a shit fight. Like, everything in Act 2 was shit. It was so garbage. That stupid butterfly bitch that would run over and she'd put like the butterflies on you, and then she'd summon the berserkers and she'd run away, and oh my god, it was awful, right? So the point is that Diablo 3, excuse me, was extremely anticipated on release. And everybody was hoping and expecting it to be good because everything they saw in the closed beta was massively fucking popular. Do you know what? Dylan, show us your dick, Dylan. Let me play on his Battle.net account because he had the beta and I didn't. This was literally fucking like 12 years ago or something like that. Yeah, no, it's a friend of mine. It's a long story why he's called that. It's a very, very long story. And anyway, so he had me play on it, and I played all the way through it, and I had so much fucking fun. And anyway, what I'm saying is that Diablo 3 was massively and eagerly anticipated by the entire internet. And I remember that fateful day, and it was like May in 2012 whenever it came out. And I played with a couple of friends of mine, and I remember I got like a massive drink from 7-Eleven, and I played all night long, and error 37, which was the error code that you got whenever you couldn't log into the server, was the top trending thing on all of Twitter worldwide because the servers were so bad. But to say that the game was disliked before it came out is just factually untrue. Like, I was there. Maybe there were some people that disliked it, sure. But to say that it was disliked is absolutely untrue.
While Diablo 2, as I said, had 40,000 players online. I will say I love Diablo 4. Everyone hated the game, even before it was released. Also, the game died while Diablo 2, as I said, had 40,000 players online. I will say I love Diablo 4, and so far it is a wonderful game.
Well, that's a... what? Okay. Great.
However, everything that made the franchise unique compared to other games has been dismissed for years. And this is why there's an outrage from Diablo 2 players. All we wanted was a new game that was similar to Diablo 2 and its core game mechanics, such as rune words and endgame. It's surprising.
I didn't want that. I'll tell you that. I watched Diablo 2. I thought it looked like shit. I thought the endgame sucked. Yeah, I didn't want that. Oh, no way. I didn't want Diablo 3 either. Don't get me wrong. Don't get it twisted.
To me that this new age of Diablo players tell us to go play Diablo 2 if we like it so much, and tell us we're on some kind of nostalgia trip, when everyone hated Diablo 3 to begin with. So I guess it's just a new age for Diablo.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's the way that every game is, right? I mean, each game is going to grow and get more popular, and the way it's going to be designed is going to change. I mean, that's just how it is. I think that, like, I think the problem that I have with this video is that a lot of what he did was, I mean, I think you can have a read on the community, but I think that the only, like, real evidence that he used is, like, really not super good. Like, for example, having 40,000 active players on, like, that's probably during a seasonal update or some kind of, like, a big event. You know, this isn't like Tuesday, right? And usually games are going to have a big boost whenever a new season comes out or anything like that. And that's the way it goes. He's speaking for everyone. Yeah, I think that also a lot of times whenever he says that Diablo 2 players, or, you know, what everybody thinks or something like that, I don't think that he was really speaking for anybody else except for himself. Now, obviously, I'm sure there are people that agree with him, but to say that this is some sort of generalized opinion is, I don't really think, very true. I think also it's kind of cheesy to, like, call out a lot of these, like, other content creators and say, like, well, you know, these people, like, insinuate basically that they are disingenuous or malicious in misrepresenting how they feel about the game in order to get access to Blizzard. I think that's kind of unfair, calling them shills, basically. Especially, as I said, I mean, and this is the problem with people like this that speak in generalities, is that anytime that they're actually, like, required to put a fact down, They're trying to put like information down. They're literally paid to shill. They're literally paid to shill though. Well, what I'm saying is that what are they saying? So here, let me give you logic here, okay? So they're paid by Blizzard to shill. Who's to say that this guy isn't also being paid by YouTube metrics and YouTube videos to just make a controversial video for the sake of it? That he doesn't really believe. How is he not just a shill for YouTube views? So you see how the video has no views. It has 18,000 views. I think that's a lot. If you look at, and also it could have popped off more. Let's look. It's about average, maybe above average with a lot of his videos. We'll just have to wait and see, you know, how many more people watch it, especially 10 days ago. I think it'll probably go up a lot whenever the game comes out. So yeah. So according to that view, nothing is genuine. Yeah, so according to the view, nothing is genuine. Exactly. And so it's like, it's easy to say that everybody else is like a shill and something like that. But I think that whenever you're making like baseless accusations like nobody on the Diablo team plays Diablo 2 or knows anything about Diablo 2 and like they're just working at Blizzard for the clout, like, I think that's ridiculous. Shows where people say go to the site and win money. Well, the thing is that if you want to say that somebody is being a shill and what they're saying isn't accurate, you should be able to disprove it. So, like, if somebody is saying something that is not true, if you're not a shill, you should be able to come out and be like, this is not true because of this. But that didn't happen. Because it's a baseless accusation. Assumes that developers are actual decision makers. Fuck off with that. Well, it also, like, assumes that he knows what they're doing. I'm not so full of it. All he does is suck my balls. Is that it? I don't know. I mean, as I said, I think that, I think that what he's done a lot of times in this video is he's basically taken his own opinion and then just, instead of saying I, said us or everybody in the community. Dude, I'm a Diablo 2 player and I agree with most of what he says. Cook my shit and roast me, but I'll talk about it. Let's see what you have to say. Yeah, sure. Let's read some messages here. He's speaking for Diablo 2 players. He's fully correct. Well, how do you know that? I mean, like, I don't think that, like, I mean, for example, like, I don't speak for the World of Warcraft community. I don't speak for anybody. I speak for myself, and there are people who agree with me. Right? You can't say that a person speaks for the community because they weren't elected by the community. This is just a person who is appointing themselves a speaker as of the community. I'm a Diablo 2 player and he doesn't speak for me? Yeah, and so it's like, what is this? Like, clearly never played Diablo 2. Diablo 2 PvP is the sole reason people play it too. Diablo 2 PvP is the sole reason why people play it. Well, then logically it would make sense that most of the people that are streaming it would be streaming PvP, right? Well, let's take a look at that. Do we see any PvP streams here? It sure seems like a lot of people are just farming items. Control F PvP. Okay, it's a good idea. Find on page PvP. Okay, one of two matches here. Yeah, one person has 5 viewers and the other one has 3. So that's a factually untrue statement, at least if you go off of Twitch metrics, which I do think are a rough estimate, although it's not accurate completely. The guy's a Diablo 2 legend, knows the game more fully than anyone. I don't think anybody's debating whether he knows Diablo 2. I'm a Zismith Stan. This guy knows his Diablo 2 shit. Maybe he's wrong about Diablo 4, but he knows Diablo 2 better than anyone. Okay. Diablo 3 is fully trash. He's trying to prevent it. Diablo 2 is legendary. But, like, why was Diablo 3 trash? Like, I think that's really the question that people don't understand. Like, why was it trash? Yeah, I think that it was like, Diablo 3 is one of the only games that I have never really even thought about playing again since I quit it. Because, trust me, because it is. Yeah, true. People are stupid as fuck. Zitmus is older than you. He was there too. Okay. Diablo 2 is far superior. It's not even funny. I mean, yeah, maybe Diablo 2 is better than Diablo 3. I mean, I don't know. PvP is referred to as PK in Diablo. Okay, I'll search PK instead. Phrase not found. Okay. Next. Diablo 3 was trash due to scaling stats and goofy itemization. Yeah, I don't really think that Diablo 3 was trash because of that. I think Diablo 3 was trash because it played like trash. That's what my opinion is. I think that it played incredibly badly. The game was horribly balanced. They had this weird real money trading where people could buy gold with real money. The bosses were bad. And not only were they bad, but they were bugged. Like, the story, I think the story wasn't even... I think the story was fine. I think the crazy scaling was only after the expansion. Yeah, well, that is actually true. And then they added, like, I remember they had monster power levels, and then, like, I got Paragon 100 in Diablo 3. Like, vanilla Diablo 3. I got Paragon 100. I played that game a lot, man. Greater Rifts were repetitive, and boss abilities were awful. Well, that was Diablo 3 Reaper of Souls. Let's see here. We can agree to disagree, that's fine, but Zitmus does speak for the vast majority of Diablo 2 players. I confer that a lot of his takes were bad, but he's right about a lot of his baseline takes. So then you also love Diablo 4 and you're excited for it? Because that's what he said at the end of the video. I'm not, but that's one of the takes I disagree with. Okay. Well, there you go. Isn't Diablo 3 Season 28 great from what people are saying? Yeah, people are very positive about that, but... You know, like, having one good season after, like, 10 bad ones isn't really that exciting to me. I remember at the time I was excited about being able to sell items on the auction house. Probably realized auction house would control the game, made me less excited. I'm an old-ass Diablo 2 player, and the random Zitmus does not speak for me. Diablo 4 beta was fun. Yeah, I think so, too. I just don't think that, like, you can really compare a game that came out in 2002 to, like, a new game nowadays. Like, you can on a fundamental level, but, like... I think also the numbers speak for themselves. There aren't a lot of people that are watching or consuming Diablo 2 content. And I would argue that interest in a game reflects interest in a game. And I would say that for PC games, if you have a lot of people that are not consuming content about the game, then they probably just don't give a shit about it. And it's not there's nothing wrong about Diablo 2, it's just that it's a 20-year-old game. People aren't playing it constantly. And guess what? In 20 years, people aren't going to be playing Diablo 4 either. And that's okay. Still good about insane drop rates on runes and uniques is being able to use normal quality gear. Every Diablo 2 dick rider's opinion boils down to this. I don't want to see items that have, like, these, like, astronomically low drop rates. Like, and if you have those items, I'm fine with that, but you have to have trading. Like, actually, you know what? Let me rephrase that statement. I am completely fine with it if you have trading. I absolutely hate it if you don't have trading. If you do not have trading, then I would fucking hate it. And if you do have trading, I would fucking love it. Certain items only drop from weekly bosses. It's probably going to be stupid. Time to let me back on my boy Zitmus, regardless. No, I mean, I'm not, like, I don't, like, hate this guy or anything. I just... I think he's just, like... Especially with, like, the trading thing... Like, as far as I know, maybe something's changed, but, like, he's factually wrong on that. Just straight up factually wrong that you're going to be able to, like, the rare items are going to be the best items because you're going to have five affixes in World Tier 4. Like, it's just not true. Now, it could be different. And they also do have trading, they have limited trading. Chase items like Headhunter and Mageblood are cool, though. I hope we have trade, though. Without that, in the RPG is a lot less fun for me. Do you know why Headhunter and Mageblood are more okay in PoE? 2 reasons. Doctors and apothecaries. Because even if you can't buy the item, you can work towards it very slowly. Divination cards are PoE's, like, actual genius fucking way to deal with offsetting RNG from super low drop rate items. I just hope they don't abandon Diablo 4 like they did with Diablo 3. I don't think that they will abandon Diablo 4, but after the Overwatch stuff, I'm a little bit hesitant to start like going and defending Blizzard about everything. But I mean, it seems like they're not going to abandon the game because they're financially invested in keeping people engaged in it. And like their entire business model is having people continuously engaged in Diablo 4. So if they don't have people continuously playing the game, they don't make any money. It's the same reason why like Honkai Star Rail was able to release anime episodes for every character that they're doing. It's because the game's making a lot of money and they want to keep people engaged with it. After Overwatch shit, you should be worried about monetization of Diablo 4. Personally, like I don't really care about skins at all, and I don't have a problem with any monetization that's an upfront cost. So here's the monetization that I don't like. Spending money on something that you don't know what you're going to get out of it. That's what I don't like. If you have a skin on a store and the skin is $35 and you buy the skin and you get the skin, I have nothing wrong with that. But I don't like loot boxes or gambling mechanics. If it's not a gambling mechanic, so gacha is fine. Wait, you guys think... Loot boxes are okay if you can get them for free? Yes, spending money on loot boxes is what's bad. It's a slippery slope, but there's nothing you can do about it, to be honest. It's not a slippery slope. Introducing gambling mechanics into a video game made for kids is not... It's the same thing as, like... It's like saying that having sexual characters like Widowmaker in the game is, like, a slippery slope for Overwatch, like, Rule 34 hentai being actual cinematics in the game. Which would be great, but that's not what's going to happen. It's not... No, that's just insane. There's an obvious difference between the two things. What's your point? My point is that I'm not worried about the monetization about Diablo 4. I mean, I don't... Like, Blizzard doesn't really have... Like, Diablo Immortal is, like, kind of its own thing, right? It's, like, just some pay-to-win trash game, and everybody kind of knows that. I think even Blizzard does. But, like, Overwatch isn't pay-to-win. Overwatch has never been pay-to-win. World of Warcraft is... I mean, you could say maybe it's pay-to-win because you can buy, like, BOEs and stuff, but, like, really it's not. Diablo 3 is not pay-to-win. It was in the original game, and it's not in Reaper of Souls. You can buy runs. Yeah, but you can do that in a lot of games. Like, to the extent that, like, yeah, I guess you could say it's pay-to-win, but I don't really think it's pay-to-win in the same way. But sure. Quinn69 got top ranks in PvE just by buying BOEs in Shadowlands early Season 1. Quinn69 also got top ranks in PvP in Season 1 of BFA. You know why? Because he's good at the game. He also got it in Legion because he's good at the game. Obviously, the BOEs helped, but it's not like you could give those BOEs to any random person and just have them succeed. Well, anyway, we're talking in circles now. I think the point is that, you know, obviously, I think that we are going to have trading to an extent. I think that we should have trading completely. I agree with him on this. I think to say that all Diablo 4 players or Diablo 2 players don't like Diablo 4 is obviously not true. I do think there are a lot of people that do agree with this, but at the same time, I think that, you know, a lot of times whenever he's speaking for the majority, I think he's really just speaking for himself. And the points of data that he uses, I think, are pretty bad, especially with, like, insinuating that, like, other content creators are all shills, and that the game doesn't have RNG mechanics, and the loot drops aren't the same. The trading stuff is definitely true. Let's see here. The rune words, yeah, this is disappointing. Hopefully they add that in later. I'm sure they will. And there was something else. Oh, yeah, the player base of Diablo 2 and the size of it. So, yeah.